he's screaming over the radio, "She's got a knife, she's got a knife, she's cutting off her arm." And I'm like, "What?" And I get to this detective and one of my other coworkers, and there was a lady there who we don't know if she was on PCP or methamphetamine or what was going on, but she literally broke into someone's car, found a fillet knife or a hunting knife, and cut off her own arm. Her studies are, I'm going to sound crazy here, but they are proving that these kids have the ability to reach a stage of telepathy. It is insane.
So as you've seen from my last video, I'm really trying to focus this year on reaching out and talking to people who are neurodivergent, but making a success often through their neurodivergence or because of it. I think it's an area that's so often missed in this world, that actually neurodivergence can be a real advantage. I stumbled across this gentleman, Andrew Whittington, who makes guitars, and he's a woodworker, and he's sort of migrated to guitars. He's a guitarist himself. And you guys all know my fascination and obsession with guitars. And I just found his videos so enlightening, especially when he started talking about certain elements. And I kind of twigged that I thought maybe he was neurodivergent. I reached out and he's agreed to join me. So Andrew, welcome to PD8 UK.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's crazy, it's 5 in the morning here, and it's about 10 there, right? Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I'm so stoked to have you. First of all, I just want to say, if you haven't seen Andrew's channel, The Wooden Hobbyist, and he starts out and it's sort of furniture builds and interesting wood, but as he's progressed, he's sort of migrated his guitars, and they are stunning, man. I have been
Thanks.
just absolutely taken away because you've got a really fresh perspective on it and the way you work it.
Yeah, I always try to look for efficiency in everything I do. And you start developing obsessions. I grew up playing guitar. I started when I was about 7 years old. I'm 34 now. So it's been a long time playing. And then over the past couple of years with woodworking, I'm like, I just reached out to my buddy once. I'm like, hey, let's make a Telecaster because I really wanted him. He's been my best friend since we were 12 years old. I wanted him to get involved in this with me because he's my only friend. He got hooked as soon. I was already woodworking at that time, and we did that Telecaster, and he got hooked. And with the YouTube, we still wanted to try furniture and all that other stuff, but that Telecaster video did so well, and we're both obsessed with guitars and now the building process, and now we just fully shifted to guitars, and we noticed an opening in there. It kind of just took off. It's doing really well. I'm meeting people I never thought I'd meet before, people I've looked up to in the YouTube world. Now I'm talking to, I can't say names yet, but people in the music world that I
Wow.
never thought would be possible, that hopefully I get to make guitars for. It's just the process itself. I would pay money to do it, and I just find it a blessing that I get paid to do it now. And it's a side gig, and I'm hoping one day it takes over as my full-time gig.
You've got the talent there. What I really appreciated is you got a very artist's eye for it, so that
Thanks.
you're not just creating a piece of wood with some strings on it. It's not just
Yeah.
because they're individual pieces. They're like
Mhm.
I've loved. I know you don't want to become known as someone who only focuses on resin work, but you've done
Yeah.
live edge guitars with resin, and you've done the rip
Mhm.
that you did for a customer. They're fantastic and they're so beautiful, but you've got appreciation for, I think, the wood itself as
Yeah.
almost a living thing. When you do your grain reveals, if you haven't, go and watch one of his videos, because he does this thing where he sort of
Yeah.
starts wiping on the varnish or
Mhm.
the coating or the stains, and you see the wood come to life underneath it. It is an absolute beautiful, beautiful thing to watch.
Oh, I could never paint a guitar. I know a lot of companies do that so they don't have to worry about, when you're mass manufacturing guitars. If I've stripped some down, I've fixed some for some friends of mine and, refinished them and whatnot. And they'll have like the cheapest swamp ash or maple you could find, just multiple boards glued together. And that's cool if you're gonna paint it, but I mean, there's so much beauty in wood. I don't think I could ever bring myself to paint it. I'll dye it. We'll try some bursts here soon, but I think the wood speaks for itself. It does so much of the work. I always say, people say they're beautiful. and I really appreciate it, but I think Mother Nature really does the hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I mean, I've got a PRSSE because I can't
Oh,
afford
yeah.
PRS.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I love it. It is that quilted maple top. But
Mhm.
I love it to pieces. It is my absolute, best friend. I think that beauty comes through. It's not it's I don't know that it's even stained, but the beauty of that wood comes through just from the varnish, and it's just enhanced it.
Yeah.
I just love it. Yeah.
You can't really beat it. I don't think there's a paint job on this world that can beat what naturally grows, especially if you get some good burl or quilted maple, blister maple, all that stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. I think that's what makes a lot of guitars so different, at least mine. I don't think I'll never make the same guitar. Every guitar I do, even if it's the same body shape, it's going to be a one of one
Mm.
just because of the wood that's in it. And that's what's so cool. I get to give them away instead of sell them. I don't want to be the big manufacturer. I want to make them and give them to people. So I do giveaways. It's an opportunity for people to have a guitar that I wish I would have had when I was at that age that I couldn't afford. Still couldn't afford, like you said, a PRS, a CE. I'm not. I could afford it, quote unquote, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to pay the rest of my bills.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, yeah. I can afford it. I'd probably be divorced. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I love it, and it's just beautiful seeing another side of guitaring. I think that
Mhm.
and music that doesn't often get a light shone on it. You hear about musicians, and you hear about fantastic musicians and songwriters and singers. What we don't often see is the stuff behind that. And getting into
Mhm.
the detail of how these, what I think are genuinely works of art, being made.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Mhm.
fantastic. I want to delve back. You said you started in sort of woodwork and crafting at 7. What led to that?
Well, I started playing guitar at 7.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't pick up woodworking until 2021 when I bought my first house. I was always a renter. I was in the United States Marine Corps, so I lived a life of always traveling and never being in one place. Um, I went I went purposely homeless with my best friend to try to start a different company. We sold all of our belongings and we lived in the mountains in tents for months, utilizing hotspots to try to do a website that sold sounds. It wouldn't work today because of how AI is, but at the time it was making okay money. Then I became a law enforcement officer, bought a house. It's kinda like I have 2 different lives, right? You
Yeah,
do law enforcement at my day job or night job right now, and I build guitars on when I'm off work. It all started when you own a house, it's different. There's things that you have to fix now. There's things that you have to do. So I bought a cheap Craftsman miter saw and a cheap Lowe's brand table saw, and it started with that. And I was like, I made a little table and a little hanger for my work vest, and I was like, this is fun. And then I moved on to a box, and then I moved on to how crazier can I get it? And before I knew it, I was bending wood and I was doing these crazy measurements. And I wish that we were on the metric system over here because when you start getting into 30 seconds and 64s and like 120s, you're really diving into hard math that I had to do in my head for a while.
I watch a lot of the
Oh yeah.
car shows as well, and they all sit there trying to do Japanese cars, totally confused because it's all metric.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get the hang of it, it's okay. The problem is when you start dealing with things like guitars, a lot of the information on building guitars, I had to just look it up myself. I was reading blogs, I was watching YouTube videos, and nobody in the guitar making world other than like two or three more YouTubers talk over their videos and explain what they were doing. So
Yeah.
I'm like, one, I saw an opportunity there because I know there are more woodworkers that want to try building a guitar, but everything else I found was all in metric. So I was just transferring that information over every time. It was just a constant, metric to imperial. But if you have your eyes set on something and you want to do it, it's going to get done.
So you got into guitar, you started playing. You I'm going to go to something that you said a few times in your videos. And it's what really piqued my interest in not just what you do, but actually you as a person, because you do talk about what you're doing, but you
Mhm.
share quite a bit about yourself in the process. And something you often talked about is invasive thoughts.
You'll also see how I disguise my intrusive thoughts as creative design.
When you say invasive thoughts, what do you mean by that?
Oh, it could be all types of things, but when it comes to when it comes to woodworking and, or any sort of creation, sometimes it's just pure destruction, like, I hate what I'm doing, and I just get this sudden urge to just wanna break the wood, because I keep messing up. Like, with a guitar I built sitting behind me, actually, I had an invasive thought. I was like, "I wanna do something different," um, and when I say invasive, everything in me was telling me not to do it, but this other thought was just, like, taking over, and I ended up just hunking off the whole bottom of the guitar and created myself so much more work because I followed the thought that one part of me knew was bad, but the other part of me was like, "You gotta risk it," we have a saying over here, "You gotta risk it for the biscuit." I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
say that
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. There's all different types, but when it comes to creation, it's generally there's, like, 2 parts of me. One is telling me not to do something, and then there's this overwhelming part of me that's like, "You should see what happens." And it actually works really well, as far as, like, even if at first the decision in the creation process messes up entirely what I'm doing, it forces me to find out a way to make it work, and then opens up a whole new world of problem solving, ideas, and more things to just hyper focus on. It's really hard to explain. I've never had to articulate it
Mm.
deeply before.
I find it fascinating because my daughter talks a lot about invasive thoughts. In fact, she reads them
Mhm.
as another voice in her head, and it becomes really
Yeah.
interesting. And it can be the same thing. What you're saying there resonates. And I just finished a big Lego build. That's as close as
Mhm.
I get to craft. But
Mhm.
I got this giant Ferrari thing, and I had it sitting on the table like, oh, I've done it. It looks really good. And she said to me, "Can you put it in your shed, please, for a bit? Because I want to
She
smash."
wanted to break it. Yep. Yep. That's
And
exactly it.
I was really impressed that it's the first time she's actually gone and said to me, "This is what's going on in my head right now, and you put about 5 days into this, and I'm going to break it." So
Yeah.
it's now sitting next to me here.
Mhm.
Um, but she gets this thing, and she finds it incredibly hard to resist. In fact, it's almost like it's a dominant force within her head. Is that
Mhm.
fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say dominant. It's dominating. But I wouldn't say it's the dominant because I know if something's really bad, I will not act on it.
Yeah,
It's there, there's still I still have sense of moral judgment and self-control for sure. But definitely get a lot of thoughts that would be bad, but you know that they're bad and you won't act on it. So I can't sometimes, like in the creative process, it's a real way to let loose. So maybe I don't know how to explain it. The more I create, the less I have any sort of invasive thought in the real world because I'm allowed to, how would you say, kind of
channel it almost.
relieve myself of
Yeah,
anything and try something crazy in the wood shop. It's a alternative escape for it.
yeah, yeah. It's a healthy channeling
Hmm.
of that side.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the point. I think so many times I talk to people who may have some form of neurodivergence, or just their brains are just that little bit different to other people's, and
Mhm.
they they find this. I have a good friend I've interviewed on the channel a couple of times who we've talked about hyperfocus, and you mentioned it there as well. She creates jewelry.
Mhm.
That's her art. She does amazing jewelry and stuff like that. But that hyperfocus, I think, for so many people can be a real positive, because
Yeah.
it once she sticks on some, she's into her drum and bass and that kind of stuff, and she'll pop that
Mhm.
on, and then she'll just focus, and six
Yeah.
hours will go by, and she'll, oh crap, it's time to pick the kids up, like that
Yeah.
whole sort of thing.
My wife calls it a superpower.
Yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard that said. And
Mhm.
yeah, what's it like for you? What I mean, when you get into that zone, what does it feel like for you? How does it manifest itself?
I don't even really think about it. It's really, like I said, I've never really had to articulate it in a way in the form of neurodivergence because I never really thought of it as neurodivergence. But once you brought it up, my wife and I talked about it, and she's like, "Yeah, and I have other things, slight autism and whatnot. It's definitely been, as far as life has been hard, but getting into the getting into the zone, it really is like a zone. You kind of lose peripheral vision almost. You're just and you're stuck there. It's not just a temporary moment. I can be in my wood shop for 13 hours and only drink water, and the water is just it's not even I'm thinking about it, it's just part of it. I
Yeah.
forget to eat. I don't answer my phone. It's a very interesting, position to be in, especially when I put on headphones.
Yep.
I have, noise reducing headphones. Sometimes I'll play music, sometimes I'll play podcasts. Half the time, I'm playing nothing,
Yep.
and I just have noise reduction. And so even more, you're just in, like, this zone. It's almost airy feeling, I guess. The bad part is you don't have situational awareness. So, like, on my normal job, I have to have constant situational awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm in my wood shop, the only awareness I have is the task at hand, what I'm focusing on. And it's just overall consuming. And it's good because it allows me to get more done than a lot of my counterparts would. Like my buddy Sean, he's extremely smart. He's the other one in the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Extremely intelligent. He does like trigonometry in his head, just
Right.
like that. Super, super smart. But he doesn't have the hyper focus. So when we're working on things together and I'm working on this business, I have to constantly remind myself just because I did X, Y, and Z today doesn't mean he's going to be able to. Because one, you have to enjoy it a lot to get in that mode. And you have to enjoy not just the results, but the process. And you have to, I call it seeing into the future, even though you're not really seeing into the future. You know what you're doing. There's a goal behind it,
You can
but
kind of envisage the end result.
yeah, but there's no real end result. 'Cause I don't even know where I'm going. I started this YouTube channel like, I'm just going to see what's going to happen because I like woodworking. I see some of these other woodworkers that are doing it. It'd be really cool. And now I'm on the cusp of, I love my job, but I love spending time with my family more and I love creating more.
Mm.
And I'm on the cusp of being able to do that just because of all of this hyper focusing and this just nonstop. It's this weird drive. There's something in me that if I'm sitting down not doing something, I start getting anxiety. It's really weird.
Yeah. I mean, classic ADHDs, you know,
Yeah.
traits that are there. My son is ADHD.
Yeah.
He has to be doing something. He can't sit and eat a meal. He has
Hmm.
to pick it up and walk around and eat just because he has to be doing something else.
Hmm.
He has to have his focus somewhere, and that
Yeah.
is only 9. So, but yeah, it's fascinating to watch. I think that I mean, but I'm interested actually from what you said there, like with your other job, being in law enforcement. I mean, having been a Marine,
Hmm.
guessing there are times where things like hyperfocus, like you're saying, you've got to be situationally aware when you're stopping someone in a car who potentially has a gun because it's we don't get that here so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, knowing what the cops in America said, we see it on TV and stuff, and you don't know what someone's
Hmm.
the glove box.
Yeah. It's weird because it is kind of a blend on that job. Um, I There's so much to say there. My mind just went in so many different places. You have to be situationally aware and hyper focused at the same time. It is so
Yes.
hard. Like, yeah, for example, like you said, stop a car, someone may have a gun. Okay, they have one, and you're focusing on them, but let's say their friend was following them and their friend stopped down the road behind them. This has happened to me before, or they stopped in front of them. Not only do I have to focus on the threat right there, there's another one 20 yards away that could also be a threat. And if I spend too much time focusing on this one, that can take over. It's hard to cope, and I think with the that's another thing that helps me with the focusing on woodworking.
Mm.
It's not just a relief for invasive thoughts, it's just a relief overall. All that pent up stress, all of that stuff just flows out, and by the time I'm done, it's like I ran a marathon and I feel amazing.
You know what? It's interesting you say that. My uncle, uh,
Mhm,
who a great guy, used to be a cop in the UK back in the sort of, I think it's 80s, maybe early 90s, but
mhm,
he's also absolutely in love with woodwork, has a workshop in his
mhm.
outside his house. I took my daughter down there because she's taken an interest in it, and they made a frame and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting that sort of it is very intense job, and it's so full of danger. I don't think people get just what police go through.
I'll
It,
I'll give you an example, and I've always wanted to have a platform to say this. So,
Go for
it's I don't know what your channel is. I'm not gonna use any cuss words, but I will say the first part is kinda graphic, but it really details kind of the mindset a lot of cops are in, especially if you meet them and they're in a bad mood. For example, I was talking to another buddy cop after getting coffee, starting my shift. I just got started on a night shift. It was about 6:30 p.m. We're at a gas station, and I know that there was a traffic accident about a mile away from me. I heard over the radio while talking with him, I just heard one of my detectives screaming. He's screaming over the radio, "She's got a knife! She's got a knife! She's cutting off her arm!" And I'm like, "What?" So I rushed to the highway thinking that the accident was on the highway, and I see the lights at the top of a hill over what we have called a service road. So I leave the highway at like 80 miles an hour. I ramp onto the service road and I'm driving up this hill and I get to this detective and one of my other coworkers, and there's a lady there who I we don't know if she was on PCP or methamphetamine or what was going on, but she literally broke into someone's car, found a fillet knife or a hunting knife, and cut off her own arm. So we're stuffing it with gauze. We're trying to get a tourniquet around it, but she cut too high. So, there wasn't much we could do. It's just a traumatic, gruesome, horrible situation, right? We clear that up. My adrenaline is up here. By the time we're done with that, I have 10 and a half hours left on my work shift because I work 12-hour shifts. Your adrenaline comes down before you get off work. And as I'm leaving that situation, someone drifts through a red light in front of me, a teenager. And I'm like, I just dealt with this, and now I got to stop this idiot kid because he's putting lives in danger. And I'm like, I didn't even want to write him a ticket or nothing. I just wanted to go, hey, stop driving like an idiot, which is what I did. I stopped him. I said, "You have no idea what I just saw. I don't wanna be here any longer than you. Stop driving like an idiot." And then it was, "F you, pig," and putting the phone in my face, and I'm like, "Dude, I could tow your car and take you to jail for that. I'm not trying to do that." But he was mad that I was a little aggressive, and, that's the thing with law enforcement. You have one traumatic situation that could be immediately followed by something not so serious, and you have to shut yourself off and restart every time you do that.
That's such a great example of that. It's something that I've recently, or in fact, finished it yesterday, a chapter for a collaborative book, and it was something that I've said I often have to do purely because I might have a situation. My daughter's had a meltdown. She's been destructive.
Mhm.
Tendency in the past was to carry that with me.
Yeah.
Go for, like if it happened in the morning, she had a meltdown. Maybe she smashed something. Maybe she hit me. Just said something that was particularly nasty or whatever, and it would just stay with me the whole day. It would just carry on.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I've had to learn to do the kind of what you're talking about in much less severe circumstances, obviously, but it's to go, you know what, draw the line. I need to move on with the rest of that. Otherwise, it's just going to keep repeating itself because she'll pick up on my
Yep.
signs And
And it'll take its toll on you.
bang on, exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm seeing it put in that sort of really extreme adrenaline situation. That makes you just really clarified that for me. Thank you. That's yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's an interesting way to look at things. And that I will tell you, as far as gruesome, I can't even explain it. There are much worse stories that I have that are similar to that, which is, why the job is not great. But there are times where I really get to help people. I really get to pull kids out of bad situations and get them with healthy family members, or, I get to help people turn away their life from drugs or whatever crime they're on and see them, you know, 6 months later, I see these people that are sober and healthy and taking care of themselves. And it's like, that actually helped them. What I did with them, it's not always arresting them, sometimes just sitting and talking. And it's really rewarding, which is why I love the job. But at the same time, it comes with those other circumstances. And there's times where like you have to forget even what courage is. You just have to turn everything off and go in and do something. You're like, I might die here. And stuff like that happens every day across our country, and people never hear about it, never see it. Calls about people wanting to shoot. They're saying, "I want to commit suicide by cop," and we legally have to go to it, knowing they're likely going to point a gun at us. And it's like we don't want to be in that situation.
who wants to be in that situation? Yeah.
No one. But to lighten things on that, that's why I love woodworking, and I feel blessed about the opportunity to maybe make it a career one day. Things are just kind of blowing up right now in the craziest of ways. Companies, brands, names that I never thought would even know I existed. It's really cool.
It is so good, and I mean, again, you're talking about like that kid you helped in the car that could have you were just
Mhm.
trying to stop him from hurting himself or anyone else down the track. But I think that music and I think what you're doing actually translates from that really well in the sense that I think there are so many ways that people can find solace or find help. Sometimes hearing a song, my father's very ill at the moment, and
Mhm.
I'm a bit of a rock fan, but it just popped up on my feed. It was this song called Monsters by James Blunt. And
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar.
yeah, it's all about just sitting with the video is him,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you realize it's all about his dad, and his dad passed.
It's one of the saddest songs you could ever listen to.
And then you see he's actually with his dad singing it, and it's just like, wow, I mean, wow.
There was an American Idol cover of that.
Yes, with Joe Rogan and Jelly.
Uh, I no, it wasn't that one. I think it was a Hawaiian kid. He
Yeah,
was
the Hawaiian kid did it on.
Oh yeah, Joe Rogan showed it.
I
Yeah.
watched it, and you got Joe Rogan and Jelly Roll crying.
Holy shit.
Oh, I'm sorry I did that to us, man. Oh,
No, please.
music will meet you where you are, man.
Yeah.
Music will meet you where you are, dude.
Oh yeah, I cried to it. I did. I
Yeah.
was actually sitting in my patrol car one night and that came across my feed. I was taking a break from driving around, and your eyes get highway hypnosis while you're driving. So I switched to my phone. I parked and switched to my phone. It was like the third thing that popped up. And here I am, cop in full uniform. I got a bulletproof vest on, a taser, a gun, all this ammunition, guns behind me. I have a riot shield, and I'm bawling my eyes out because I'm like, man, that kid had a good relationship with his dad.
Yeah, it was just like, wow.
Mhm.
I love that image. It's so
Mhm.
real. But I think that's
Yeah.
playing with this, with the woodworking and the guitars and the opportunities that presenting. I think, an inspiring instrument inspires inspiring music.
Oh
And
yeah.
Clapton's guitar, was it? It sold not long ago for like something like 20 million because it's a
Oh
song.
yeah.
I like the particular
History.
it's the history of that. It was the song, the instrument that recorded Layla, or something. One of
Yeah.
those. It was like, yeah, of course it is. Gilmore's guitars and all that kind of.
Mhm. that's why I'm reaching out to like Cam at Blacktail Studio, why I did that collaboration, and John
I can
Malecki. I
imagine
have
that.
stuff from their projects that, as I'm a YouTuber first and foremost, when it comes to posting these videos, and they have been huge inspirations not only to me but literally millions of
Yeah.
people. Cam across all of his platforms has like 5 million subscribers, and they've a large portion of them has seen some of the builds that I was able to incorporate into those guitars. And the same thing with John. And it's just incredible. I have the giveaway one over here. I got to add the tuners to it still, and a couple other, but it's cool. Like, I have a piece of that in here.
That's what I like.
Uh, yeah, it's awesome, and I'm hoping I get to do that with some musicians here soon. It's the history. It's combining it all into an instrument,
I,
and somebody will get to create with it.
it's a beautiful thing, and so many. I mean, switching it to the neurodivergent side of things, so many neurodivergent people I know. Because I'm a musician, I seem to know a tremendous amount of neurodivergent people, and I realise because I'm a
Mhm.
musician, that's why. Because so many musicians are neurodivergent because they're so creative. They see
Oh yeah.
music in a different way to how I, as a neurotypical, see music, or hear music in a different way to how I hear it. It's an amazing creative force, and it just blows me away. I'm almost jealous of it in so many ways,
Well, there's good and bad to it, right?
as with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so like Sean, he really is my only real friend other than my wife. And my wife can put up with me because her brother is autistic as well. I always wondered, like, high school, for example, grades 9 through 12, I never went to prom. I wasn't a bad looking kid, and I had a couple girlfriends, but they never really worked out. And my only friends, I only gravitated towards, like, our Sean was part of like a trio of friends we had. The other one, his name was Andy, and we just gravitated towards people that had those. I don't even call them disabilities; they're just
no,
differences.
finding your tribe, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and my tribe has always been that, and even at work, I think I stand out a little bit towards people. I'm respected to a degree with my coworkers. I'm a supervisor now, but how I look at people and how I handle problems. For example, in the police academy, they always called me the robot. I didn't really know when to show emotion at the right time. Something traumatic can happen, or a training incident could occur that wasn't expected, and it was just robotic, and I haven't always known how to control that or show the proper face in those situations, because that's really how I look at it. I feel emotion. I'm able to cry. I'm able to love, but I don't always read the room, if that makes sense.
absolutely it does. Yep.
I've learned that there's certain faces to look for to match the tone of a room. I it's really hard to explain. Rather than feeling the energy of the room or picking up on the sarcasm or tone of someone's voice, I'm looking at their faces and their posture, and it's like, oh, this is how I should be acting, or this is how I should be responding. And it took years to do that because in the Marine Corps, I had no friends. I had one, um, but I didn't fit in with those guys. They were all jockey and like,
Frat boy thing that,
yeah, frat boy kind of style, and I was like, I didn't know how to fit in with them.
yeah.
So, the brain was definitely different, and I noticed it early on, but after a while, I figured out how to kind of blend in, and articulate a little bit better.
It's something that I argue a lot, is that we need to stop. I think there's a tendency, and I mean, you got Autism Speaks in the States, which I do not like,
Yeah.
because they advocate for, it's like, you need to cure this. It needs to be cured. It needs to be somehow eradicated. Actually, what we should be doing is taking something like that and going, no, we don't. For my daughter, I don't need to change her. I don't need to change who she is. She's perfect as she is.
Have you ever heard the evolutionary theory? This is actually good when speaking
Yes,
about your daughter. and it actually goes into the telepathy tapes too, if you've heard about that.
No.
Well, I'll tickle your brain with that one, but the evolutionary theory on it is that certain stages of autism, where you are in the spectrum, is actually humans trying to progress into a new form or higher level of thinking or brain function or power, and the bodies we have aren't um, evolved to like match it yet. So there's just, you have a different way of looking at the world, a different level of intelligence, and your body is still pretty primitive to handle that. And, if the theory of evolution is true overall, then um, how do we know that didn't happen to other species or happen to us when we were younger or younger as a species?
Well, here's an interesting thought for you. You actually look at 99% of the major steps we've taken as a human species.
Hmm.
Einstein, autistic.
Yeah. Hmm.
Nikola Tesla, autistic. Steve Jobs, autistic. Bill Gates, autistic.
Hmm.
You got all the
M&M is Asperger's, by the way.
oh well, yeah, exactly. Like Axl Rose is bipolar.
Yeah.
It's there's all this stuff, but most of the so many of the really important discoveries that have been made are because of neurodivergent people. And
Yeah.
whether it's whether it's evolutionary or not, I think we've got two eyes because it helps us see three-dimensionally.
Yeah.
If everyone were neurotypical, we'd all have that same perspective. You
Hmm.
can see cards laid out and they look like bricks. So someone else who has a slightly different perspective to go, oh, I can see here, they're actually really thin. They're not very strong.
It is different. Yeah. That's a good way you just put it. It's a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I've noticed there's a different perspective. Sometimes I wish I could see the other perspective because I don't always understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when my wife tells me I have a superpower, it feels good, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it is cool, to have that, and it's my own way of feeling different or special or have my own unique qualities, but it's even cooler to know that there's a lot of people out there, and like I said earlier, the telepathy tape, I
Oh,
highly recommend you look
yeah.
into it. There's actually a Joe Rogan podcast, where I forgot her name, she's the one that's studying these nonverbal, autistic children with her studies, and they're doing a documentary on it because it started out as a podcast. Her studies are, I'm going to sound crazy here, but they are proving that these kids have the ability to reach a stage of telepathy with starting with their parents. They're doing it by um, controlled studies with, mom will think of a red, yellow, and blue crayon, and the child will, he'll write out typically what mom is thinking. And every time it's 100% accurate all the time. It is insane. That is truly phenomenal. So these people that we thought were lost causes, I would say the vast majority of the human population thinks nonverbal autism or lost causes are hard to deal with, are actually just brilliant minds trapped in a body that can't handle what they can do.
Man, it has been an absolute joy talking to you. Before we round up, I do want to get you. You talked about meeting some of these woodworkers and using the stuff they give you. There was one particularly beautiful moment, and I don't know the chap's name, but you went there and he said, "I know you need a bandsaw. Well, I've just got a new one, so
Oh yeah.
Something also that came to mind when I was watching your guys' content, and we'll get to the wood, but you mentioned in the video with Cam that you were having some issues with a specific tool, that you might be investing in another one, and when I was getting started, I was like all over Craigslist and stuff. So I was like buying all my tools used. It helped me move the needle, right? And it helped me grow my business, helped me get to where I am today. So we recently installed a bandsaw, and this one doesn't have a home.
What?
You're
fucking lying.
I want you guys to have this.
What? No way, man.
You drove 10 hours out here.
Serious?
you know, and you're also building me a custom guitar. And so I thought there'd be no better home than another starter.
I thought that was such a beautiful moment because there's a solidarity there.
It was amazing because John and Cam both. So that was John Malecki. He used to be an NFL player, but now he makes more money doing YouTube than he was as an NFL player, which is insane. He watched my video that I collaborated with Blacktail Studio to build those guitars, and I mentioned I wanted to get a new bandsaw, but it wasn't in the budget yet. I didn't have the space, and for him to just think about that and then surprise me with it was just I was blown away. It's one of the coolest things anybody has ever done to, someone I've never met before in person.
Yeah.
We've only talked on Instagram a few times before that. He just was, he could have given that to anyone. He could have sold it. There could have been family or friends, but he's like, "You guys, you're doing good, and I want you to have this." And just, I could never thank him enough. That speeded up, like I said, efficiency. Right at the beginning of this conversation, efficiency is huge, and having that without going into the details of woodworking really, really sped up my efficiency and allowed me to focus even more on the creative side of things, just because I got that much more time back. So it was super cool.
Absolutely. And it comes back to also, I think, that thing of saying of finding your tribe. And I think
Mhm,
that's what happens when we start being authentic to ourselves.
mhm.
We find the people who are like-minded. Well, maybe not
And
like,
you'll find the people you don't wanna have around.
yeah, yeah, exactly that. You'll find the people, not everyone's toxic, but they might be
Yeah,
toxic to you because
yeah.
yeah. So knowing that and yeah,
Sometimes it's not even toxic, it's just, you don't blend well,
yeah. And
It's
often it's
just
the people who were very too similar. I had a
yeah,
when I was in my early 20s, my friends told me they'd been to a party and I couldn't go to. I was working, and
mhm,
so we met a guy there. They described him as the redneck version of me. And I'm like,
mhm.
you two can never meet. You'll be unstoppable. The next weekend, I actually wound up meeting him. I didn't know it was him at the time. I couldn't stand the guy.
Yeah,
And realized afterwards that's him. I'm like, really? He's like me?
mhm,
And I realized it was probably the things I don't like about myself that I was really seeing.
yeah. Well, it's that term opposites attract, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why my buddy Sean and we're very similar in a lot of ways, but all of the good ways. We're almost opposite across the spectrum. He's taller and skinnier. He enjoys cars and cats. I'm shorter and I'll say plumper, and I enjoy dogs. So
Full figured, full figured.
yeah, full figured. And we have personalities that are so different, but at the same time, we find a lot of the same things funny.
Yeah,
And my wife and I were completely different. Crowded rooms, my wife is the one that will let you know. I call her my angry hamster. She's tiny little blonde. She's 5 feet tall. And she will let you know that you're wrong when you're wrong. And I'm normally quiet, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So the spicy attitude, I call it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Andrew, it has been an absolute joy seeing where your trajectory is headed, knowing not who you've got coming on, but there are going to be some, musicians who are, taking notice of your stuff as well. But I think most of all, just your authenticity, the genuine person you are, really
Appreciate that.
comes through. No, I mean every word of it. It's such a joy. If you haven't looked at Andrew's channel, go check it out. I'll put links in description. Make sure you subscribe to him. It is absolutely fascinating stuff. And even if you don't play guitar, look at the other stuff on there. But even if you don't play guitar and you want to see the guitar ones, the amount of craftsmanship and one of the things I love about Andrew is that when he does this stuff, if he makes a mistake, he's like, "Well, I'll stuff that up." But then sometimes those mistakes end up being better because of
Yep.
to fix them. And
Happy accidents.
yeah, yeah, or exactly. And so please go and check it out. Subscribe, watch his videos. I will put the link in the descriptions and I'll put a little banner up in the right hand corner here. You can click on that and go to his channel as well. Andrew, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, man. I hope we could talk again sometime.
Definitely. Thanks
Alrighty, sir.
to everyone, and I'll see you on the next episode. In the meantime, please do stay safe.